n'ai jamais compris leur histoire. Je les avais rencontrés à Paris à la fin de l'été. Stéphane, un étudiant allemand, Estelle, une jeune américaine. Il la suivit en Espagne.
This video is inspired by the YouTube user Proghat, who yesterday did a video about the soundtrack for the motion picture More by Pink Floyd. It was 55 years ago yesterday that this album was released in the UK, and so he did a long, like an hour live stream just talking about this album and his love for this album, and he went song by song. And this is actually one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. It's probably in the top 5, and so I felt inspired this morning to put this video together for that. So thank you, Proghat. I will put his username link in the description, and go check out his channel. He's doing lots of different videos related to music. This is their 3rd studio album, the first motion picture soundtrack that they would do. They would go on to do many. It was released in the UK on EMI Colombia, and it would also be released on the Tower Records in the United States a few months later. This was filmed primarily in Ibiza and directed by Barbet Schroeder. It was his directorial debut. He would go on to do the 1972 The Valley, which Pink Floyd did the soundtrack for that. This album would be recorded in a 2-week period in January, February of 1969. This is the first album that they made without any Syd Barrett involvement. David Gilmour came in and replaced Syd Barrett, and David Gilmour would end up singing all the songs that had lyrics on this album, and Roger Waters would step up and pretty much write all the songs himself. And that's the point where Roger Waters took creative control and lyrically sculpted the future of Pink Floyd. David Gilmour was interviewed about the film More, and he had said, "We hadn't done film scores before, but they offered us lots of money. We wrote the whole thing in 8 days from start to finish." The album features a mix of folk and rock and experimental music as what you would find in a soundtrack. The cover is from a still from the film, the leads going to a windmill, and on the back, the lead characters are off looking into the mountains. Most of the songs in the film are fragments of the songs, unlike the album where they are the full songs. This album was the first Pink Floyd album to be in the top 10 in England, but it got mixed reviews. A lot of people didn't like it, but still a lot of fans bought it. Several of these songs listed here, they would play live throughout the rest of 69, 70, and 71, up until they started performing early versions of Dark Side of the Moon songs in 1972, and then they would work those songs until they actually recorded Dark Side of the Moon in 1973. Sirius Minor opens the album, and it is a atmospheric, tranquil song that kind of sets the tone a bit for the film soundtrack. And actually, with the exception of that song, all the songs on side 1 were more standard songs, and side 2 were more experimental instrumental pieces. The Nile Song, the 2nd song on the album, is one of Pink Floyd's more heavier songs. It's actually a hard rock, heavy metal song. It shows David Gilmour's crazy guitar. It's like Black Sabbath a year before Black Sabbath came out. If you've never heard it, you should spin this song. In high school, maybe 1985, I was a junior in high school, and I had this cassette Relics, and I played it 1,000 times. And I remember going up to a few punk rockers who hated Pink Floyd, who hated Led Zeppelin, who hated Black Sabbath, and said, "Listen to this song." Had it on my Walkman, gave it to them, and they liked it. That was like their introduction to Pink Floyd. And I would see them over the years, and they still like Pink Floyd. So the Nile Song give it a chance. Main theme, the first song on side 2 is actually the first song on the movie. They would play the main theme live in 1970 from January to March, 12 different times. It's not a very long song on the album, and it would go up to 7 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes when they played it live. 1970 is my favorite live Pink Floyd touring year. They were touring Atom Heart Mother then, but they would play tracks from More. And the main theme was one of those. Another popular track is Cymbaline.
A butterfly with broken wings is falling by your side. The ravens all are closing in, and there's nowhere you can hide. Your manager and agent are both busy on the phone, sending colored photographs to magazines back home.
It's a concert favorite. They would play this song for 3 years, again up until they started doing Dark Side of the Moon. And that song started off as like a 5-minute song, and that would turn into 10, 11, 12-minute song by 1971. In the movie, when the song is played, one of the characters is playing a record player, and this song is what is playing from the record player. Years later, in 1996, Hawkwind would reissue their first album, and this track, Cymbaline, was one of the bonus tracks from that CD. Green is the Color, that is one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs. Really their first folk acoustic ballad. David Gilmour's vocals are really nice. They would play it for years. They would play this song and combine it with Careful That Axe Eugene, and this would go 15, 16, 17 minutes with Careful That Axe Eugene.
Light was the light that shines through the dress that you wore. She lay in the shadow of a
There was only 2 singles from the album. It wasn't a big singles album. The first one is the Nile Song. This is a French picture sleeve. And I have another, that's more my keeper copy. It's the same thing, French picture sleeve. It also came out in New Zealand on Colombia. It didn't come out with a picture sleeve. I don't think any of the New Zealand ones came out with a picture sleeve. But it's a really neat label. The Nile Song. And then also they were a version of this single, the Nile Song and the main theme in Japan. Another still from the movie, but also there's a shot of the band there. It's got the lyrics in Japanese. I have 2 copies of that particular single. We played these songs live in 70 and 71, and there are some bootlegs where they played them. This was the Fillmore West, and then Pink Floyd, Violence in Birmingham, February of 1970. This was January 23rd, 1970, Watersgate. I used to have the really rare version of this, but I sold it because it went up to like $2,500, so I had to sell that. I didn't play it that much. But they did Green is the Color and married that with Careful That Axe Eugene. Live at Leeds. This would be February 28th, 1970. I have many copies of More. This is the UK second pressing. I don't have the first pressing. They are looking west. The couple, there's kind of like a blue, a green tint to the back here. The inner sleeve, this is from a third pressing, and you know that because they would have Piper at the Gates of Dawn on this if it was from the first or the second pressing. This is the label for the UK second pressing. This is the UK fifth pressing. It doesn't have the flip back. They are looking to the east now. On the second pressing, they were looking to the west. The second and the fifth. This is the US first pressing on tower. This came out maybe August 9th, I think. They are looking to the west. This is the Tower Rainbow label. Pink Floyd and Piper at the Gates of Dawn and Saucer Full of Secrets, their first pressings were on the orange label. When they were reissued in '69, it was on this striped rainbow label. This would be the last album that they would be on tower in the United States. I also have the 2016 reissue that they did, and this sounds really good. If you don't have this album, this is a good place to start. And one thing I didn't mention was Hypnosis did this cover. They would do Saucer Full of Secrets, and then they would go on to do many of their other album covers. This is a Japanese second pressing. Pink Floyd were very big in Japan. They are looking east. This actually it has the obi, and you say it's got 2,000 yen. You could tell a reissue because it'll be 2,200 yen on the obi. It's a gatefold with a still from the movie, and then they got a photo of David, Roger, and Nick. I don't know what happened to Rick. And then there's other photos from the movie, and in Japanese, probably a synopsis of the movie. What's good about this second pressing is actually, it's a promo. It's a white label promo on red vinyl. I do not have the first pressing white label promo of this album, and it's been on my list for years, and now it's probably $2,500. Very expensive. I got this early. And on the Odeon label, I have a thing for Japanese pressings of Pink Floyd, and especially the white label promos, and then these Red Odeon. They're so nice. I also have the third pressing from Japan of this album, and you can tell by the cover anyways that the price is 2,200 yen. It's also a gatefold, and it's the same as the second pressing that I have. Let's see, they are facing west. This one is on the black Odeon label, not red. This is a first press German. It's laminated. The couple's facing east. It's not a flip back, it's not a gatefold. This is a label. This is the sixth pressing from Germany. It's in a shrink. Can't get rid of the glare. They're looking west. This is the French third pressing. This is the French third. This is an Italy third pressing. They're facing west. This is second pressing from Israel on the portrait label. They are facing east. Nothing too different other than it says manufactured in Tel Aviv. The label. Final copy that I have is from Colombia. When I went and saw Roger Waters in Bogota.
The sky's for pain. Can you tell it when you feel it? From a cold steel way, a smile from fate. Do you think you can tell? How did they get you to trade your heroes for gold?
I went to a bunch of record stores looking for some Pink Floyd, and I found this. This is the second pressing. Could not find the first pressing. I also got Adam Hart Mother, first pressing. And there's a few 12 inches from Colombia that are worth thousands of dollars, which I've never seen, and I'll end up never owning. That is the label from Colombia. In addition to the singles and the LPs, they had a few tracks released on compilations. On the Relics compilation, They had Cirrus Minor and the Nile Song. This is Japan, Red Wax. And then here's another version of the same album, but with the obi. And this red obi is one that says, welcome. When they would tour Japan, they would put that on the albums and promote it. This is a white label promo on red vinyl. Relics was my introduction to Pink Floyd, the very first album I got, and Nick Mason drew that, got art. And then the last compilation, and probably the rarest, one of the rarest Pink Floyd things I have, is Pink Floyd from 1971. It's a Japanese compilation, referred to sometimes as the cow cover. And it just went out to radio stations in Japan. Very few copies of this was made. This was a white label promo. I saw this over at Face Records in New York about a month ago. I think they had it up there for like $2,500, and I think it was a VG copy, but a very rare. So if you ever see that cow head again, pick it up. One single that's been eluding me was 1972 Mexican 7-inch, the Nile Song and Remember a Day. I've looked for it for many years, but I've never seen it in the wild. I really have never seen it on sale. So if you ever see the 1972 Mexican single, the Nile Song, hit me up. I'm really looking for that one. That is my More collection, and happy 55th anniversary to Pink Floyd and their soundtrack from the motion picture More. Thanks again to Prog Hat for motivating me to make this video. Go check out his channel and look at his video with his thoughts on the album More. He goes into more detail about each track and what they mean to him, and it's a really good listen. Like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.
This is a Pink Floyd song.